Good evening, good in its spiritual sense, not merely a mark on the clock, not the fading of daylight, but an evening of communing with good, an evening of turning from the noise of the marketplace to the hush of the heart, an evening not of talk about God, but of recognition of God, not of reaching out into the air for a belief, but of resting into the presence that is closer to you than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. If we are to be together, let it be on that basis, a fellowship of inner listening, a quiet company gathered around an invisible warmth. I would like you to feel even now that what unites us is not agreement of opinions, not doctrine, not the cleverness of language, but a shared willingness to be still. Do you notice, even as I say that, there is a small settling, a softening of the shoulders, a breath that is not pushed but arrives of itself? That is the atmosphere we are after this evening, not information, contact, not a theory of Christ consciousness, but the taste of it, the touch of it, the awareness of it, if only for a moment, so that you may say, not I have heard, but I have felt. Now, I must say at the outset, so there is no confusion, this is not a new religion. This is not a debate club to pit one text against another. This is not a meeting to stir up emotion and then call the stirring God. No, no, this is a little experiment in the inner sanctuary. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. I am quoting that because it is instruction, and because tonight we will obey it, not outwardly, with theatrical gestures, but inwardly, by a simple act that anyone here can do. We will close the door on appearances for a moment and let the Father that seeth in secret be acknowledged, and we will leave the fruit to appear openly in its own season. I'm going to interrupt myself right here to tell you the promise plainly, so that you do not miss it while listening for something complicated. The promise is not that you will learn more about Christ consciousness, not that you will collect brighter ideas. The promise is that a single silent moment, one, can change the axis of your experience, not hours of strain, not the manufacture of belief, one unlabored pause in which thought ceases its managing and the indwelling presence is acknowledged. And from there on, the Father within doeth the works. If that sounds too simple, keep your skepticism, but keep it gently and bring it with you into the stillness. It will not be argued down. It will be loved into quiet. We will keep this evening sacred. Not secret as in hiding from the world in fear, but secret as in holy, kept within, not displayed, because life's deepest things lose power when paraded. So we shall not measure tonight by immediate fireworks, nor shall we perform for one another. We will sit, we will listen, we will allow. And then we will watch in the days that follow whether peace loosens a knot in the body, whether harmony enters a relationship that has been tight, whether supply, without fanfare, begins to appear where there has been anxiety. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. So let this be our agreement and our question that carries us through. What is the simplest inner act that opens Christ without strain? Not more effort, not more words, not more piety, but the simplest. We will come back to that again and again, and before this evening is through, we will try it. For now, sit easily with me in this communion, and let us begin as we mean to continue. Not thinking about God, but recognizing God within. Now, let me be very honest with you, because if we are to have any value together tonight, it must be in truth, not in posing. The strange thing is that I did not know how to pray. I knew the words, I knew the verses, I knew the doctrines and the slogans and the right positions for the hands. I could think about God with a kind of intensity that made my forehead tight. I could believe about God with a fervor that could have melted wax. And yet, when I laid the head on the pillow at night, there was a nakedness there, a not yet, a sense that I had been climbing a ladder made of thought up to a sky that would not open. Do you know that feeling? You see, this is my confession, not as a tragedy, but as a mercy, because the mercy is that the failure of thought was the beginning of prayer. I tried to reach God by thinking harder. I tried to reach God by believing more fiercely. I tried to reach God by saying the same beautiful words over and over, as if frequency could force the door. I organized thoughts into arguments and presented them to the Almighty, as if I were before a judge who needed convincing. I searched my consciousness for the right phrase, as though God were sensitive to syllables. And then, when that did not do, I analyzed. I weighed and trimmed, pleaded and bargained. If you will, then I will, as if the infinite were a tradesman in a market stall. Use not vain repetitions, the Master said, and I was there making a rosary out of my own vocabulary. The result? Inner fatigue, a mind panting like a dog chasing its own tail, and no peace. Now I am going to interrupt myself a moment to say something that may spare you unnecessary guilt. The struggle was not lack of faith. I did not disbelieve in God. I did not doubt Christ. I doubted myself sometimes. I doubted the worthiness. I doubted whether I had done enough reading, enough church, enough humility to earn access. But it was not lack of faith in God. It was the habit, oh, that stubborn, respectable habit, of using thought as a ladder to reach what could never be reached because it was already here. That is the habit that makes saints tired and skeptics proud and both equally restless. Then there came a small moment, no trumpets, no lights, no peculiar feelings that could be sold as a sensation. I was weary. I had reached the end of my ladder. Thought simply ran out of itself. It did not die with a crash. It settled as a bird that can no longer pretend it is the wind. And in that settling, no trance, no hypnosis, I beg you do not add mythology to what is simple. In that settling there was something felt, not emotion, not excitement, and certainly not the personality called Joel getting his way. It was presence, quiet, steady, not mine, and yet nearer than my own thought. Be still and know that I am God. In that instant I knew the order. Stillness first, knowing second. Stillness first, fruit later. What was that moment? Let us be exact. It was not me thinking about Christ. It was the cessation of my trying to think into Christ, the surrender of my managing. No special breathing, no staring at the ceiling until the eyes burned. Not the cloud-9 daydream of an escape artist, just the inward door closing on the world for one breath, and the world not escaped, but quieted. If you ask me what prompted it, what released it, I can only say this. The mind stopped appointing itself as the mediator of God, and in that vacancy a presence already within made itself known. Beautiful. By now I am in a position to say this to you with a great deal of authority, not because of a single night's relief, but because I have watched it repeat, in kitchens and on streetcars, in offices and in hospital rooms, with saints and with sinners, with those who had read 3 shelves of theology and those who could not find Genesis. When thought ceases its clutching, when for a second you abandon the mental ladder, something else takes the initiative. Call it the Father within. Call it the Christ. Call it the life that is your life. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works, and I have seen the works, the sense of fear loosening without argument, the body finding rest without a regimen of anxieties, an answer appearing where only questions stood and no one on earth could trace the route it took. Do you see the point I am letting you in on? I am not giving you a technique to make the mind more clever. I am handing you the permission to stop appointing the mind as priest and gatekeeper. You will say, but my thoughts are vigorous, they leap. Fine. Let them leap. And yet, do not ask them to be your ladder to heaven. Heaven is within you, the kingdom is within you. Therefore, the act is not a stretch, it is a release. Not the manufacturing of belief, but the acknowledgement of presence. not the whipping up of emotion, but the quiet admission, where I am, God is, where God is, I am. And so if my confession has any usefulness, let it be this: you are not failing because you do not believe enough. You are simply tired of using the wrong instrument. Thoughts are wonderful servants in their place, balancing the checkbook, driving the car, roasting the chicken, but they are pitiful priests. They cannot usher you into what already indwells you. Close the door for a moment, let the mental fingers unclench and watch. Watch without straining how the inner stillness reveals an authority not your own, and how, from that point on, the Father within begins to do the works. Then the prayer, which was once a reach, becomes a recognition. And recognition, my friends, is rest. Now that we have told the truth about the ladder of thought giving out, let us tell the truth about what stands when the ladder is no more. The kingdom of God is within you. Do not hear that as embroidery on a church banner or poetry for funerals. Hear it as instruction. Within you, meaning not another mile to run, not another doctrine to pin to a wall, not an altitude of religious emotion, but a direction of attention. Within you, meaning right here where you are, in the very consciousness by which you are aware that you are listening. If you will take it so, you will discover that the kingdom is not a destination, it is an unveiling. And I must be plain about what I mean when I say Christ. I do not mean admiring a historic Jesus from a respectful distance, building a shrine of thoughts to a figure across centuries while remaining empty in your own breast. I mean the living presence that animated that man and that now indwells you. I mean the light by which he saw, the life by which he lived, the love by which he forgave, not as a personal achievement but as an outflow of what he named the Father within. Closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. This presence is not a visitor, it is the fact of your being. And when I say Christ consciousness, I am not inviting you to a mental picture of holiness. I am inviting you to the felt recognition that the I which hears these words is not separate from the life that spoke the worlds into being. The difficulty, and it is a tender one, is that we keep trying to fix the outer picture with the same tools that painted it. We juggle circumstances, we rearrange personalities, we paint the leaves a different green and call it spring. But the Master never sent us on that errand. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Where? Within. If the cause is within, the correction is within. If the law is within, the harmony is within. The outer is an echo, the sound is inside. And so our practice cannot be chiefly an outer pressure. It must be an inner yielding. Beautiful. Do you see the change of territory? From managing effects to recognizing cause. From pleading with the screen to touching the projector. And here is the hinge on which the door swings. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Do not let that remain a slogan on a calendar. Make it method. If I can of my own self do nothing, then my function is not to accomplish, but to acknowledge. My office is not to compel outcomes, but to consent to presence. And when I consent, one quiet moment of consenting, the works are done by that which knows how to be life, how to be health, how to be supply, without my blueprints and without my anxious timing. If I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. If I rest in the self that is God's presence, I witness truth appearing. How shall you know that you have turned sufficiently within to touch this interior fact? The sign is simple, and I'm letting you in on it as one shares bread across a table. Peace. Not a fireworks display, not a trance. Peace. A stillness that does not argue, a quiet assurance that does not have to check the clock. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Stayed, not strained. Be still and know that I am God. Notice the order again. Be still first, then know. When that stillness steals over you like a gentle tide, when the breath becomes unhurried without your command, when the shoulders let go of their job of holding up the universe, that is your evidence that God is on the field. From there, we do not resume managing. From there, we watch the Father that seeth in secret reward openly in His way and in His time. Let us try it as we speak of it, not as a formal demonstration, save that for later, but as a tiny obedience. Right where you are, for the space of one leisurely breath, withdraw attention from the outer picture. Do not hate it, simply close the door on it as you would gently close the door to keep out a draft. Without words if you can manage it, or with the fewest words if you must, acknowledge, where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. Then wait the length of a heartbeat for the inward atmosphere to answer. Do you notice, even slightly, that the mind loosens its grip? That a quiet center is there before you import it? That is the Christ as interior fact. And now remember this so you are not tempted back to heroics. You will never need to travel to find God. You will only need to turn. Turn within, and not once from desperation only, but as a way of walking. Turn within when the phone rings with good news and with bad. Turn within at the cash register and at the bedside. Turn within in the busyness of the office and in the hush of night. High or low, rich or poor, quick of temperament or slow, saint or sinner, this is not awarded to a few, it is native to all. The difference will be in your willingness to stop appointing the mind as mediator and to let the presence be what it is. When you do, the proof will not ask your permission. It will appear as harmony, first as peace in the heart, then as order in the outer life. And you will say with gratitude, not pride, where I am, God is. And the inner kingdom will show itself as the only country you ever truly lived in. Now, if we are to walk in what we have tasted, even slightly, we must make very plain the simplest act by which it opens, because the mind, clever in its way, will try to convert a grace into a technique, a presence into a project. The Master said, "Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature?" Do you hear the spirit of that? He was not appointing you to negligence. He was not making a religion of carelessness. He was withdrawing from thought the crown we have placed on it. He was saying, in effect, do not enlist mental argument as your savior. Do not make thinking your priest. Do not try to push the river with mind. Take no thought is not irresponsibility. Take no thought is the refusal to use thought as spiritual power. Let me interrupt myself to be very direct here, so that you do not turn this into another ladder. Take no thought is not the attempt to stop all thinking. You could exhaust yourself for 3 lifetimes trying to do that and discover only headaches. Take no thought is the one instant in which you stop feeding the mind and you rest attention in the presence. The chatter may keep yammering like a radio in another room. The complaint may pass like a streetcar beyond your window, but you do not go out to ride it. You do not supply it with your obedience. In that instant, 1, not because you forced silence, but because you ceased to employ noise as your instrument, there is felt, without your manufacturing, a different atmosphere. That is the Christ revealing itself, not as a thought about God, but as the very life that is your life. Why does this change everything? Because as long as we grasp at God with the fingers of the mind, we are handling our own echoes. When the hand opens and ceases from its grasping, a deeper current begins to be felt, a peace that is not personal peace, a quiet that is not the result of getting one's way. It is not your tranquility triumphing over turmoil. It is God's hush registering as consciousness. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding. You see the meaning of that? It passes understanding because it does not arise from understanding. It arises from presence. and presence is not earned by argument. It is revealed in consent. Now, let me correct a mistake that plagues sincere students. Silence is not blankness. We are not practicing vacancy. We are not drumming our fingers in the void, waiting for a sensation. Silence, as we are speaking, is receptivity. It is listening without strain. It is yielding without becoming a doormat. It is the alert stillness by which you can hear when a child in the next room turns in his sleep. It is the poised readiness by which you can sense when a friend is about to speak and you make the space to let them. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. That is not passivity. That is attention. When you are in that posture, the mind may still be tossing its pebbles into the pond, but the pond does not organize itself around pebbles. It abides. It receives. And because it receives, it reflects the sky clearly. How shall you enact this in a way that is not another doing? The doorway is a simple inward acknowledgement and then the cessation of speeches. Father, I am here. Not a speech, just the acknowledgement. Here I am. Or, if you will, where I am, thou art. Then hush. This is the point at which the habit wants to resume. Wants to say, and Father, about the mortgage and the diagnosis and the children and the world situation. No. No. Keep your finger, as it were, on the lip of consciousness. You have announced your presence. You have acknowledged His. Now take no thought. You have stepped into the presence. Now do not speak over it. In that poised hush, you will notice, sometimes subtly, that the breath becomes unpushed, that a warmth not of temperature enters, that the shoulders forget to supervise the universe. That is your sign that the Father is on the field. And from there, the Father within doeth the works. But, you say, what of my responsibilities? Am I to neglect the writing of checks, the making of plans, the speaking of necessary words? Of course not. We do not abandon life. We close the door on appearances long enough to contact the life within, and then we return to our duties under a different government. First take no thought, then take the step that presents itself. First the hush, then the word that is given. What emerges after that moment is not the mind bossing the day. It is the day being carried on the back of a presence that was acknowledged. Do you see the reversal? Formerly we pushed from the outer to the outer, and the strain showed in our very voices. Now a quiet consent within, and the activity flows without ranting or racing. One thing alone we achieve, this silent grace. Everything else is done by that which knows how. Let me give you a picture you can carry. Imagine the mind as a faithful dog who loves to bring you sticks. It drops them at your feet all day long, opinions, worries, brilliant strategies, old stories. Take no thought does not mean you kick the dog. It means you stop throwing the sticks. You smile, you let the dog be, but you do not play the game. You rest attention in the heart's sanctuary. Father, I am here. And then you abide. In a moment, the dog grows bored of a game you will not play, and the house becomes very quiet. In that quiet, something else becomes audible, a guidance that was not born of memory, a love that is not a sentiment, a life that is not a schedule. That is the Christ making itself known as the only actor. Do not measure this by time. 5 seconds of true receptivity are more fruitful than 5 hours of strained vacancy. The mind will ask, was it enough? Do not answer it. The fruit will answer it. For now, keep it this simple. Not thinking about Christ, but ceasing from thought long enough to feel Christ. Not improving the mind's philosophy, but removing its authority. Not building a tower to heaven, but turning and consenting where heaven already is, within. Then watch with that gentle curiosity that faith learns, as the Father that seeth in secret declares himself in the open field of your day. And if tonight you are tempted to resume the old ladder, remember the kindness you are not failing by refusing to climb. You are obeying by laying the ladder down, by saying once quietly, "Father, I am here," and by letting the Father be Father. Now, having seen the kindness of take no thought, let us speak very simply about the door, how to close it without running from life. We are not escapists here. We are not going to float away from our families or abandon the accounts, the appointments, the necessary words. We are going to do something gentler and far more potent. We are going to close the door on appearances just long enough to contact the life within, and then we are going to open the door again and walk out into the same world under a different government. How do you close the door? Begin with the body because it cooperates when asked kindly. Sit where you are or stand where you must, and if it is safe to do so, let the eyes close. When the eyes close, let that be your signal that the inner door is closing. The newspaper headline is on the other side. The figures in the ledger are on the other side. The diagnosis and the praise and the blame on the other side. Even your self-judgment is politely asked to wait in the hall. For a breath or two, you are not available to opinions, to urgencies, to the noisy commerce of improving yourself. You have stepped into the inner room. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. We are obeying that in the simplest way. Now, let me be very clear about what within means, so that you do not go searching for a sensation or chasing phantoms through the body. We are not scanning the heart for a beat to cling to. We are not analyzing the thought stream or grading the silence. We are entering a sanctuary. Picture it, if you must for a moment, not a temple of stone, but an atmosphere of quiet that is already here. Your part is to sit down in it inwardly. Acknowledge once, "Father, I am here," and then do not decorate that with speeches. This is not vacancy. This is receptivity. You are listening as one who knows that something is present and does not need your noise to prove it. "But what of my responsibilities?" the mind protests. "If I close my eyes to them, am I not neglecting them?" No, no, we are not ignoring human needs. We are relocating the source of help from the mind to the indwelling presence. You will still write the check, make the call, deliver the report, tend the child. Only now the energy that does these things is not anxiety, not bravado, not the brittle efficiency of a tired manager. It is the flow that comes when you have acknowledged the presence and given it a moment to declare itself. "I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works." Our arrangement is simple. First the inner contact, then the outer act. Let us normalize what you will meet as you practice, because disappointment is unnecessary and comes from false expectation. 5 seconds of true quiet count. 30 seconds count. Do not measure this by a clock. Measure it by surrender. If you gave one honest breath in which you stopped recruiting the mind as priest, that was prayer. If your peace lasted until the kettle whistled, that was enough for that moment. Later, another moment, and then another. Gradually, a rhythm forms, not heroics, rhythm. Meditation is an art that can be learned. You are learning it one yielded breath at a time. Set your expectation towards subtlety. The first sign is not usually lightning. It is a settling, a softening at the edges, a lessening of the inner shout. You may notice that your shoulders forget to hold up the sky. You may discover the breath arriving without your management. You may feel that the urgency, which a moment ago strutted as a monarch, has misplaced its crown. That is not nothing. That is already the shift, the evidence that the peace of God, which passeth understanding, is beginning to announce itself. Do not lean forward and ask it to give you papers. Do not say, "Is that it? Prove it." Keep the finger, as it were, on the lip of consciousness. Let it be what it is. You will want to know when to practice. I am going to make it very practical. Before you open the morning's mail, close the door for a breath. Before you answer a ringing phone, close the door for a breath. When the car stops at a red light, without closing the physical eyes, let the inner eyelids fall. Father, I am here. Standing at the kitchen sink, waiting for the elevator, before you enter the meeting, after you leave the meeting, as you kiss the child goodnight, as you lay your head on the pillow, these are doorways. Use them. You do not have to light a candle or arrange a dramatic posture, a single inward acknowledgement and the cessation of speeches. Then open the door and walk on. Now I must answer a fear before it takes root. If I do not think about the problem, if I do not wrestle it, will it not grow? By now you have seen that worry has not been your savior. Anxiety can stimulate action. It cannot create harmony. The problem is not invited to grow by your refusal to fondle it. It is invited to dissolve by your refusal to feed it the only food it knows, attention as power. We are not conquering appearances with stronger appearances. We are withdrawing from them the authority we had mistakenly loaned them, and we are returning that authority to the only rightful place, the presence within. Leave your problem to that invisible presence. Your function is the contact. The Father within doeth the works. And then, this is the beauty. You do not live out of the back door of life like one escaping a fire. You re-enter your ordinary streets with an extraordinary composure. The words you speak will be gentler and truer. The timing of your steps will be different. You will make the call at the hour when it is received. You will remember the name you were about to forget. The necessary check arrives. The unexpected kindness appears. Do you doubt it? Watch. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly, not as magic tricks to amuse you, but as the natural fruitage of an inner government that has been recognized. So let this be our present understanding and our simple practice. You do not escape life. You close the door on appearances long enough to contact the life within. Then you open the door and let that life live your life. Keep it private, keep it reverent, keep your finger on the lip. 5 seconds here, 30 seconds there, a minute when grace grants it. Each little act of consent is a stone in a quiet altar within you. And at that altar, without any strain of yours, the fire is tended by another. When you are ready, often many times a day, step in, whisper, Father, I am here. Cease from speech. Feel the settling and then step out, letting the Father within do the works. Now let us not prolong the speaking about it. Let us taste it together. We will not make a display of it. We will obey it. Right where you are, if it is safe to do so, let the eyes rest or close, and let this be, inwardly, the closing of the door. The outer hangs its coat on the hook outside the room. We are not trying to stop the world. We are stepping aside from it for a breath. And in that inner room, we make only one acknowledgement once, without embroidery. Father, I am here. Now, hush. If it helps you to have a handrail as we step in, take a single line and then allow it to dissolve like sugar in warm water. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Do not repeat it. Let it do its work and disappear into the quiet. We are not building a tower of words. We are slipping off shoes in a holy place. Do you notice as we settle that the mind wants to hand you something to fix? It wants to show you a calendar square, a face, a bill, a phrase you should have said differently. Smile at it without taking it into your hands. Let it pass like a passerby in front of a shop window. Do you notice the impulse to evaluate even this? Is it working? Am I doing it right? Let that too pass. We are not managers here. We are not the inspector of prayer. We are the guest who has been invited to sit by the fire. Now rest your attention lower than the forehead, not as a location but as a humility. There is a quiet place underneath the traffic, like the bed of a river that does not complain of the boats. Do you notice, even subtly, that the breath does not require your coaching, that it is going in and out on its own good schedule? Beautiful. That is enough. And if, as is usual, an image comes up now, the child's need, the physician's word, the ledger's read. Do not go to war with it. We are not gladiators in this room. We are witnesses. Make the simplest turn. The presence is here, not as a charm, as a fact. The presence is here. Then do nothing with the image. Do not counsel it. Do not banish it. Let it be cooled by the atmosphere you are consenting to. Take no thought. Rest again. We will be very quiet for a few heartbeats, not forcing quiet. Consent quiet. Do you notice a softening across the brow? Do you notice the shoulders remembering that they are joints and not girders? Do you notice a warmth, not of temperature, but of companionship, as if the room itself leaned closer? Do you notice space around the thoughts, the way the sky is around a single cloud? Do not chase it. Do not label it. Acknowledge once more, almost under the breath of the soul, where I am, God is. Then hush. Now I am going to interrupt this silence only to help you stay in it. Do you hear a radio in the next room of the mind, giving you headlines? Let it play without you going in to adjust the dial. Do you notice a plan assembling itself about tomorrow at 10 o'clock? Let it assemble and fall apart without your signature. Do you notice a tug to begin a conversation with God and Father about this and that? Keep the finger on the lip. The presence is here. Be still and know. If tears rise, let them. If a smile arrives without a joke, let it. If nothing at all seems to happen except that you are not straining, let that be your sign. The peace of God does not always come as a shout. More often it is the settling of a bird on a branch that had seemed too slender to hold it. More often it is the sense, I am not alone in myself. You have not produced this. Do not claim it as your achievement. It is grace revealing itself where you stopped standing in the doorway. Another breath. Feel how it is not yours, and yet it fills you. Another breath. Notice the absence of the compulsion to hurry. Another breath. Let the mind run out of questions as a child runs out of play at dusk. The presence is here, and because it is here, the Father within doeth the works. We make no promises to it. We sign no contracts. We sit and we consent. If a pain speaks up, do not answer it with argument. Acknowledge the presence again, here, not somewhere else, and rest. If a memory knocks loudly, do not descend the stairs to greet it. Keep the door of this room closed with a gentle hand. The presence is here. If a fear performs its favorite drama, do not join the cast. Do not be noble. Be quiet. The presence is here. In this posture, nothing is being fixed by you, and yet everything is being placed under a government not your own. Do you notice now that the inner noise does not command the same obedience, that there is an underneath that was always there, but which you had not visited today? This is not imagination made thick. This is not suggestion. This is the natural register of the kingdom within, when thought has been relieved of its throne. I can of mine own self do nothing. In this very confession, power that is not yours announces itself as peace, as breadth, as an unhurried certainty that does not report to evidence. Let us stay 2 more breaths. Resist the turning of this into an achievement. Resist the notebook impulse. Simply abide. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. Do not finish the line aloud. Let it complete itself in the way only grace can complete. The presence is here. Now, before you open the door again, mark the signs, not to boast of them, not to publish them, but to recognize the handrail you can reach for in an hour. Was there a warmth behind the breastbone? Was there a settling of breath? Was there an unnoticed smile or a loosening at the root of the tongue? Was there a brief forgetting of the name of your trouble? Any one of those or none felt, and yet a quiet without cause. This is the evidence that God is on the field. This is the Father that seeth in secret, making his first announcement. It is not your success. It is not your cleverness. It is the fruit of not managing consciousness for a moment. We will bring a little of this hush with us as we go back to speech. You need not break it. Let speech arise from it as a spring arises from the hill. When you open your eyes, you will find the same room, the same faces, the same obligations, but not the same government. Do not rush to engage the problem. Leave it where you left it, in the care of presence. When action is required, it will be given. When a word must be spoken, it will be found on your tongue without your rummaging. This is the beginning of trust, not because you gritted your teeth to believe, but because you beheld in a small, verifiable way that when you stop managing consciousness, silent grace reveals the presence that does the work. And if you say, "Was that all?" Yes, that is all. Do not discount it because it was simple. The seed is simple. The oak is contained in it. 5 seconds of real consent contain a harvest. You will prove it by fruit, not by drama. You will see it in a gentler tone where you would have been sharp, in a memory that arrives at the hour it is useful, in a check that comes without your pressure, in a reconciliation you could not engineer. Do you doubt it? Do not argue with me. Watch the weak. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. Now open the door softly. Do not leave the room in your heart. Let it come with you. Keep the acknowledgement near on the lips of the soul. The presence is here, and if the dog of the mind brings you sticks, pet him and do not throw. Return to the inner chair for a breath again and again. This is how we walk with an unseen hand on the small of the back. This is how the life begins to feel carried. And then you will say without bravado, but with quiet certainty learned by living, I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Now, as we come back to speech, let us be very honest with one another about how this is known, not by visions, not by claims, not by telling the neighbors that we have found a new technique. By their fruits ye shall know them. That is the Master's standard, and it is the only safe one. The sign of contact is fruit, outer harmony following inner acknowledgement. Often it begins so quietly that if you are a lover of drama, you could miss it. But if you are a lover of truth, you will notice that you are not moving from the same driver's seat. The harsh edge on the tongue is rounded. A decision that yesterday generated heat now yields to a simple rightness. The shoulders report that they have laid down an invisible load. This is the Father that seeth in secret beginning to reward openly. Let me tell you the paradox as plainly as I can, so that you are not tempted to judge before the hour. Outwardly, in the first minutes, very little may have changed. The bill is still on the desk. The body still carries its history. The calendar has not erased obligations. And yet, this is the crucial part. The inner pressure breaks. The habit of bracing against life releases. The sense of being a solitary agent in a hostile universe is interrupted by companionship. The yoke becomes easy and the burden light, not because the road was shortened, but because you have ceased to carry it by yourself. Then, without your pushing, the outer begins to reform itself in the image of the new government within. First the hush, then the flow. First the root, then the leaf. First the contact, then the expression. Take a simple case that repeats itself in 1,000 homes. There was tension with a friend, a partner, a child. Words had already been rehearsed for the next round. You knew where to strike and where to defend. Now you have made your turn within. You have kept the finger on the lip. You have let the presence be present. When the moment of meeting arrives, you discover you cannot use the old speech. A different sentence presents itself. A gentler tone offers itself, or, equally often, you feel moved to be silent for 3 heartbeats, and in those 3, the other one softens first. No law was quoted. No technique was brandished. Peace preceded action, and because peace went before, Harmony found a way where your skill could not. Then all of a sudden, as if it had been simple all along, the knot unties. Or in the field of guidance, you have an important choice. Two roads that both have arguments stacked beside them. Formerly, you would take out the ledger of pros and cons, move coins from one pile to the other, and sleep fitfully, waking with the same unsettled mind. After a moment in the inner room, you return to the matter and find that the strain to decide has been taken from you. A clarity that does not scold arrives. Sometimes both roads go dim except one, and you cannot pretend otherwise. Sometimes neither road is to be taken today, and you know it. Not laziness, not fear, but a quiet, not yet. And when the hour ripens, a call comes that makes the way plain, or a door that had looked wide proves gently closed, and you are not angry with it. The Father within doeth the works, and decision is no longer a duel. It is an obedience to a peace that knows. In the body, the fruit often begins in the language the body understands. Relaxation, ease, a cessation of alarms. You notice that sleep, which had been a chased animal, comes nearer without bait. Breathing returns from the chest to the life. A pain that had been shouting learns to speak at a lower tone until, in many cases, it loses interest in being a character at all. I am not asking you to imagine anything. I am asking you to notice that when the government within shifts from fear to presence, the nerves report to a different master. Sometimes healing appears as quiet correction without fanfare. Sometimes it appears as a simple, unhurried guidance to the right help, the right hand, the right hour, met without terror. In either case, the fruit is the same. The tyranny of fear is broken. The body follows the peace that passeth understanding. And about supply, do not turn this into a scheme for getting. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added unto you, not wrung from the world by your cleverness. You have seen it. Without any added strain in outer activity, what was delayed arrives. The client who had grown cool remembers you. The idea to make a certain call comes with warmth on it and is received as if you had been expected. An expense that seemed inevitable is shown to be unnecessary. A generosity you thought impossible flows through you without fear of tomorrow. This is not magic. This is order. Presence first, then provision. Contact first, then expression. You will witness your life carried forward by a current you did not invent and therefore need not maintain by fret. Now I must warn you against your most polite enemy, the measuring mind. It stands at the edge of the garden with a ruler. How many fruits? How large? How soon? It runs between the rows and digs up the seed to see if anything is happening. No, no, do not permit it to be the inspector general of God. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade, then the ear. After that the full corn in the ear. Your part is the sowing, your 5 seconds, your 30 seconds, your minute of honest consent. Your part is the watering, returning to the inner room without drama. Your part is not the forcing. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly, but not on your stopwatch and not always along the avenues your memory would choose. You will be tempted in the first days to call the work a failure because the outer did not leap at your command. Consider which work you are evaluating. If the inner pressure has broken, if the government has shifted even by a degree, give thanks and be quiet. The fruit is already in the tree, though you cannot yet pick it. And when a small evidence appears, a softer word, a cleaner decision, a body that has forgotten to clench, a provision that arrives without your self-persuasion, do not run to the housetops to announce it. Keep your finger on the lip. Let the fruit validate the root without your salesmanship. In this way, you will build confidence, not by suggestion, but by living demonstration. Now remember this, and let it settle as a working law for you. We never begin from the circumference moving inward. We begin from the center radiating outward. We do not fix problems to find peace. We find peace and discover problems losing their names. We do not plan our way into presence. We acknowledge presence and watch right plans appear ready-made. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If you will keep the order sacred, presence, then expression, you will not need to argue with yourself about results. Results will announce themselves as harmony in the paths where you walk. And then, quietly, almost shyly, you will come to trust that the moment of silent grace is not only sweet, it is causative. It is the root from which the leaf, the flower, and the harvest come forth. Now I must tell you a truth that you will find useful by morning. The mind will come to the door with objections, and it will be persuasive and polite and urgent by turns. Do not go to war with it. You do not conquer the mind. You simply stop appointing it as the mediator of God. I can say that to you with a great deal of authority, because I too once thought that if I could only outthink the thinker, I would come to peace. No, no. Take no thought does not mean kill the mind. It means refuse it, the priesthood. Let the mind do what the mind does. Tick, compare, assemble. But let it do it out in the outer room, while you abide in the inner chair. I can't stop thinking, you say, and I answer, you are not asked to. Did I ask you to stop birds from flying across the sky? Only to stop chasing them. Thoughts come of themselves and go of themselves. Your part is not to deputize them. Take no thought means. Do not reach out after a thought and crown it as the path to God. Let the radio play in the next room without you adjusting the dial. Sit in the inner room as witness, not as manager. Do you see the difference? When you cease to authorize thought as your ladder to heaven, it loses its authority to dictate your nearness to God. Where I am, God is, not where the mind has arranged the perfect sentence. I don't feel anything, another voice reports. Beautiful. Do not require thunder to acknowledge the presence. The first evidence is often subtraction, not addition. Less fear, less urgency, less inner shouting. Sometimes it is only a small space between you and the name of your trouble, a half-breath in which compulsion loosens its grip. Sometimes it is simply the absence of the itch to improve this moment. That is not nothing. That is the peace of God, which passeth understanding, coming in a dress too simple to be admired by the mind. Keep your finger on the lip. Do not grab for sensation. Do not audition God for a role in your play. Acknowledge once, silently, the presence is here, and let the hush be your sign. Isn't this passive? The practical side argues. I do not blame you for asking. I asked it often. But listen, silence is not inaction. It is the source of right action. A wheel spins noisily without a hub. Put the axle through and you have motion that actually goes somewhere. After the inner contact, you will find yourself making the call at the hour when it is answered, speaking the word that meets the need instead of decorating the air, walking to the desk and finding the letter, writing itself without strain. You will still plant, water, build, serve. Only the fuel is changed, not anxiety, not bravado, guidance. And guidance moves with an ease that shames our old heroics. First the hush, then the flow. First the inner government, then the outward order. Am I worthy? Oh, the most human of all questions. Let me let you in on the secret. Worthiness is a construct of the mind. Presence is a fact of God. High or low, rich or poor, black or white, sick or well, saint or sinner, it makes no difference. The sun does not audition the earth. It shines. The kingdom of God is within you, not rented by the hour to the well-behaved. Meditation is an art that can be learned, but the subject of meditation, the presence, is not learned, not earned, not improved. it is. Your part is consent, not qualification. If you are breathing, you are invited. If you are ashamed, you are invited. If you are proud, you are invited. Come as you are and leave the costume trunk outside the door. But my problem is serious. I respect that word. I have sat with it in many rooms, and I have watched this. When we make God our subject and not the problem, the tyranny of seriousness breaks. Now remember this, and write it on the inside of your hand, if you must. You will never need to know problems. You will only need to know God. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Your analysis of the not is not the solvent. Your contact with presence is. Leave your case with the Father that seeth in secret. If action is to be taken, it will announce itself without panic in it. If waiting is the order, it will be a poised waiting, not a fretful one. In either case, government has shifted. Let me gather these strands and place them where you can reach for them tomorrow. You do not stop thoughts. You stop believing they are the avenue to God. You do not demand feeling. You accept subtle peace as evidence that God is on the field. You do not defend passivity. You demonstrate that silence births right action. You do not petition worthiness. You acknowledge universality. You do not study problems. You know God. And in all of this, you keep your finger on the lip. You cease from speeches. You let the presence be present. Then, quietly, almost shyly at first, fruit appears where there had been only effort. This is not your triumph. It is the Father within doing what the Father within has always done, when given a moment of unopposed entrance. Now walk gently with that, and when the mind knocks, smile as at a friendly neighbor, and do not hand it the keys. Now, if we are to live with this and not make of it a souvenir, to be admired and forgotten, we must give it a place in the day, not as a duty that breeds resentment, but as a rhythm that makes breathing easier. Meditation is something of an art that can be learned. Do not let the word frighten you. It begins with hints, small flashes, a softening here and there, that you almost miss if you are intent on fireworks. Hints become experiences, irregular at first, like birds visiting a new feeder. Experiences become daily, the way a path becomes visible in a field because someone cares to walk it, and daily, lovingly kept, becomes accessible at will, not by commandment, but because you have built within yourself a readiness, a cleared doorway, so that the moment you sit, the inner chair is found. I am not guessing. By now I am in a position to say this to you with a great deal of authority. I have watched it in my life and in the lives that have been placed in my care. Anyone and everyone can learn this art. I'm going to give you a simple rhythm, and I ask you not to complicate it. Morning, midday, evening, that is all. In the morning, before you borrow the world's thoughts, before you read the headlines or rehearse your list, sit for 1 minute, one honest minute, and enter within. Close the door. One breath, one inward acknowledgement. Father, I am here, the presence is here, and then hush. Do not go on a tour of your problems. Do not give God a briefing. Be still and know. If you have 5 seconds of real hush, bless it. If you have 10, do not boast to yourself. Let it be seed. At midday, return. Not long. The day may be brisk. Let your practice be simple. In the car, at a red light, in the corridor between appointments, in the washroom with the water running, one breath, one inward acknowledgement, then silence. Take no thought. Smile at the mind's clipboard and let it stand outside the door. Allow the room within to be discovered again, even if only for the space of that single breath. You will be surprised how that small turn can reset the whole afternoon under a different government. In the evening, when the day has spent itself, before you pick up the day's story to tell it again to yourself, sit once more. Do not review. Do not rate your performance as a human being. Simply rest in a gratitude that has no adjectives. Thank you for the unseen hand that carried this day. If you can say no more than, "The presence is here," say that once and be quiet. Let the peace that is not your manufacture announce itself, or not. Your task was the turn. Then sleep in that acknowledgement, like a child who has been tucked in by a loving parent. Between these three, practice what I call mini sanctuaries. A hand on a doorknob is a bell. When you reach for it, let it remind you of the inner door. A kettle beginning to sing, the phone vibrating in your pocket, the moment before you answer someone who has just spoken sharply. Each is a sanctuary bell. One breath, one acknowledgement. Silence, no wrestling, no analysis. Be the guest, not the manager. The kingdom of God is within you. Do not travel to it with luggage. Enter without speech and let the Father within do the works. Now remember this, because it will spare you many discouragements. 5 seconds today, 10 tomorrow. Do not despise the day of small things. The earth brings forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. You are training your attention to obey a higher love. You are cutting a path. At first it is uncertain, then it is faintly visible. Then one day you will find that when you close your eyes, wherever you are, whatever has been said, whatever has not been done, the hush arrives almost at once, at will. Not because you are strong, but because you have ceased to interfere. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Some of you will find this rhythm more readily than others. It is like music. One sits at the keys and finds the chord without hunting. Another learns by scales and by time. Both make music if both will keep faith with the practice. Do not measure your progress against anyone's report, including mine. Measure only by this. Is there more peace between you and the world by evening than there was in the morning? Is there a loosening in the grip of compulsion? Do you return a little more easily today than yesterday? Then continue and keep your finger on the lip. Secrecy is not superstition, it is protection. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Keep the holy things holy. Speak rarely of your inner room. Let the Father which seeth in secret reward openly. You will be tempted to turn this into a project with charts. Resist it. Keep it simple. Morning entering in, midday return, evening gratitude, mini sanctuaries wherever the bell sounds. One breath, one acknowledgement, silence. If you miss a time, begin again. If you sit and nothing seems to happen, bless the nothing and begin again. Hints become experiences. Experiences become daily. Daily becomes at will. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. And in that nearness, life is governed quietly, surely from the center out. Not by one heroic effort that exhausts you and frightens you back into the old ways, but by many small silences that open the same door until the hinges move without squeak and the room is yours to enter whenever the heart calls. Keep to this and you will discover that the presence is not an event in your week. It is the atmosphere of your life. And now let us bring it down to one loving practicality. Choose one concern, just one, not the whole catalog, not the lifetime ledger. One thing that has asked for your attention today. Place it gently on the table of your heart, not to dissect it, not to plead with it, not to interrogate God about it, but to let it become the doorway by which you turn within. We are not solving, we are consenting. We are not managing, we are acknowledging. Now remember this, and take it as instruction from this moment forward. Leave the problem to the presence. Take your stand in stillness. Take no thought for the issue or the plan. Go into your inner room and shut the door. Acknowledge once, quietly, Father, thou art here, the kingdom is within me. Then hush. Do not appoint the mind to the priesthood. Do not rehearse the case. Do not bargain. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Let that be your law, and rest your whole weight upon it. For a few breaths now, here, together, let us give it the courtesy of a moment. Close the inner door, one breath in gratitude, one inward recognition of the presence. No words, no projects, just the hush. Do you notice the aftertaste? Not fireworks, perhaps only a softening at the edges, a quiet that does not argue, a small confidence that does not boast, a gentleness that makes no claims. That is enough. That is the sign that the government has shifted. The Father that seeth in secret has been acknowledged. The reward will be openly, in its own way, without your speeches. Carry this one thing with you as you go from here. Tonight is not an ending. This is the first step in a rhythm that will become your atmosphere. Before sleep takes you, lay that one concern once more at the threshold of the inner room and say, "The presence is here," and leave it there. In the morning you will find that the door opens more easily for being used. The hinge already knows your hand. Tomorrow choose again one moment to stop thought and acknowledge, and one concern, any concern, as a bell to call you inward. Many small moments. One door, the same Christ within recognized until, almost shyly, fruit appears where worry used to live. Keep your finger on the lip. Speak rarely of what passes between you and God. Let the Father which seeth in secret reward openly. Do not appoint the measuring mind to audit the day. Simply return when the bell rings. Take no thought. Acknowledge, hush. Then move as you are moved, without strain, without hurry, without the old heroics. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. And in that nearness, the outer arrangements take their cue from the inner peace. So here is our consecration, and I place it in your hands with love. Before this day is done, choose one moment, one honest moment, to stop thought and acknowledge the presence within. Then let it do the works. Not many words, not long, just truth. Simply honored. The kingdom of God is within you. It is not far, and it is not late. It can be touched in one silent moment. Go in quiet, come out in quiet, and let the fruit bear witness. Peace be with you.